Welcome to the Stranger Things Season 3 quiz. Still remember Season 3, or is it time for a rewatch? 30 questions, 3 options, 5 seconds each. Before we start, if you're new here, please subscribe to our channel for more fabulous videos. Alright, let's get started. What secret experiment are the Russians running in the Soviet Union? They're trying to capture demogorgons to use as weapons against the United States. They're trying to see if communism works, at least in the Upside Down. They built a machine called a key to open a gate to the Upside Down. C. What happens as a result of the experiment? The machine can't fully open the gate, becomes unstable, and kills nearby people in an energy blast. The machine opens only a tiny crack, just enough for the mind flayer to extend its mind again. The machine opens a portal and Rick and Morty tumble out. A. What solution does lead scientist Alexei propose? Use the key in Hawkins, where the gate had been opened once and it was still healing. Build keys around the world to weaken the barrier between the two worlds from multiple directions. Drown his sorrows in vodka. A. How did the Soviets manage to use the key in the US? They sneaked technicians and soldiers into the old Hawkins lab and restarted to house the key. They built a secret underground base and put Starcourt Mall on top so they can get supplies without raising suspicion. They hide the key under the rug. B. What does the mind flayer do when the new gate is opened? It starts spreading its particles into the air over Hawkins. It takes a quick trip around town but goes back to the Upside Down because it can't handle the summer heat. It reconnects with a part of itself expelled from Will, which has been dormant in an abandoned steel mill. C. What is the mind flayer's goal? Enslave everyone in Hawkins by turning them into permanent flayed. Ruin every date in town by making the lights suddenly go out. Kill 11 first, then her friends, then everyone else. C. What is the mind flayer's plan to achieve its goal of extermination? Use the flayed as a remote-controlled army to attack 11 in Hawkins. Hide dynamite inside the walkie-talkies. Build a physical body in our world made from fused humans and rats. C. What does the mind flayer do with the rats and people it uses as building material? It drags them into the Upside Down, traps them in cocoons, and they melt into its body. It makes them eat chemicals and lures them to the steel mill, where they melt and become part of its body. It makes them jump into the toilet and then scoops their remains out of the sewers. B. How do people become flayed? They get possessed when they breathe in the mind flayer's particles. Some are possessed through the monster's face-hugging tentacles, others are infected by possessed rats. The mind flayer picks them from the ones whining the most about the heat at the mall. B. Who is the first person possessed by the mind flayer in Season 3? Mrs. Driscoll, infected while trying to catch a strange rat in her basement. Erica, possessed by capitalism while haggling for a free ice cream sample. Billy, driven off the road and dragged into the steel mill by a mind flayer tentacle. C. What job does the mind flayer give Billy? Get close to the kids and spy on their plans. Kidnap people and take them to the steel mill so the mind flayer can make them flayed. Give the mind flayer private swim lessons. B. What does Joyce figure out, and how? She notices the magnets are demagnetized and realizes someone has restarted experiments in Hawkins. She sees the house lights flickering again and realizes the mind flayer is back. She sees the fridge light turn on when she opens it and assumes Will is signaling that he's hungry. A. What does Hopper find out after Grigory attacks him? He intercepts a shady phone call from the mayor, digs through city records, and finds sale contracts tied to the Soviets. He remembers seeing Grigory with the mayor and forces him to admit the Soviets had bought property in Hawkins. He starts to get suspicious when he sees the mayor drinking vodka and wearing a fur hat in June. B. What do Joyce and Hopper find when they break into one of the Soviets' properties? They find a tunnel leading to the secretly reactivated Hawkins lab. They find crates of vodka and invite Murray to celebrate. They find an underground lab and escape by taking Alexei hostage, who then explains the Soviet plan. C. What does Will realize, and how? He has a vision of the Upside Down and sees the Mind Flayer returning. He feels the Mind Flayer is back when he gets goosebumps on the back of his neck. He realizes he doesn't like girls after Mike points it out. B. What does Eleven find out when she uses her powers to spy on Billy for fun? He's doing something terrible to a girl. He's talking to his upside-down doppelganger. He spends 2 hours in front of the mirror doing his hair. A. What do the kids do when they think Billy is possessed? They tie him to a chair in Mike's basement to question him, but he breaks free and runs. They invite him to play D&D to see if he chooses to play the Mind Flayer. They lock him in a sauna to drive out the Mind Flayer, but he escapes. C. What do Nancy and Jonathan find after Mrs. Driscoll's report? Rats moving in packs, as if being led. Rats chewing the wall into a shape that looks like the Mind Flayer. Rats eating fertilizer. C. What happens to Mrs. Driscoll? She starts eating fertilizer and is taken to the hospital, where Nancy recognizes the same signs of possession Will had. They find her in a trance and rush her to the hospital. Nancy fears she's the Mind Flayer's new host. She uses fertilizer as air freshener and ends up in a mental hospital. A. What does Dustin pick up when he tries to contact his girlfriend Susie with his radio station? A conversation between technicians talking about the old Hawkins lab. A choir of tone-deaf Demogorgons singing the Soviet anthem. A coded message from Soviet soldiers. C. What does Steve realize when he listens to the coded message recording? From the background hum, he realizes it was sent near a large power facility. From the background music, he realizes it's coming from the mall. He realizes it isn't in English, because he can't understand a single word. B. What does Robin figure out when she cracks the code? That a suspicious shipment is scheduled to arrive at Starcourt that night. That the Soviets have set up their machine and are testing it. That Soviet secret messages can be cracked by an ice cream scooper. A. What do they find when they enter the mall's loading dock? It's a control room full of radios and maps where Soviet spies coordinate their operations. It's actually an elevator down to the underground base, where they see the key in action. It's actually the entrance to a Soviet spy club where the mayor moonlights as a go-go dancer. B. What happens when 11 tracks Billy and the Mind Flayer tracks her? The flesh monster attacks her but only wounds her by forcing a piece of itself into her leg. Billy goes to kill her but 11 knocks him out and escapes safely with her friends. The flesh monster goes to the cabin but it gets stuck in the door and dies. A. What happens when everyone meets up at the mall? 11 saves the others from the Soviet soldiers, removes the Mind Flayer piece from her leg, but loses her powers. The Mind Flayer triggers a fragment in 11's leg, causing her to lose her powers. They all go see Day of the Dead at the movies, even though they're underage. A. What happens when the Mind Flayer attacks them all? Seeing Max in danger, Billy comes to his senses and dies protecting her. The kids throw Scoops Ahoy ice cream at it to drive it off, but only make it stronger because it loves the cold. 11 brings Billy back by reminding him of his mother, and he dies protecting the kids. C. What do Joyce and Hopper do in the Soviet base with Dustin guiding them by radio? They place explosives near the machine, which go off and kill Hopper. They can't turn off the machine, so Hopper punches it like an old TV and is hit by the explosion. Hopper fights and kills Grigory while Joyce turns the keys, blowing up the machine right next to him. C. How did Susie help save the world? She gives him Planck's constant so Hopper can open the safe with the keys to shut down the machine. She uses her math skills to help Dustin crack the Soviets' code and realize they're opening a new gate. She makes Dustin sing the never-ending story, and he's so off-key that the Mind Flayer kills itself by taking a sauna. A. What happens after the key is destroyed? The gate closes, the Mind Flayer dies, and after Hopper's funeral 11 moves into Mike's basement. The Russians go home to explain how they lost to a bunch of kids and 2 ice cream scoopers. The gate closes, the Mind Flayer's body dies, and the buyers leave Hawkins with a still powerless 11. C. What's happening in the Soviet Union in the meantime? In a secret lab, scientists keep a small gate open and install sensors to study the upside down. In a prison, a Demogorgon is kept, and the guards are ordered to feed it prisoners, but not the American. In a prison, a Demogorgon is the only prisoner not complaining about the cold, so everyone gets suspicious. B. How many did you get right? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.